Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to today's Secretary of the Navy guest lecture series. By way of introduction, I am Captain Eric Skalski, your Dean of Students, and I have the distinct opportunity to introduce today's guest speaker. So ladies and gentlemen, it is both an honor and privilege to welcome home an esteemed Naval Postgraduate School alumnus, a true warrior scholar, and pillar of deliberate, continuous learning and application, Admiral Sam Paparo. In May, Admiral Paparo assumed command of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, a position of significant responsibility. We are deeply fortunate to have him here today to share his insights on arguably the most critical region for our nation, allies, partners, and global commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome an exceptional leader, decisive strategist, and truly brilliant learner, leader, Admiral Sam Paparo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see you. Great to be back. Monterey's a home. Just want to shake the hand of my friend here. Great to see you, Rio. Thanks. Samuel Paparo, thank you so much, Ryan, for the warm, mildly inflated introduction, particularly the latter parts. It's great to be here back home in Monterey, and thank you, Ann, for inviting me here. Digger, the whole team, thanks to all. I'll talk a little bit about the strategic environment, just to frame where we are. I'd like to talk a little bit about the epoch that we're living in, the changing character of war, then the importance of this institution within that and within the joint force. And then I'll talk a little bit about what I think the Joint Force needs from the graduates of this institution, because it is a unique institution with a unique role. And then we'll leave the balance of the discussion, because I think that's where all the learning is going to come from in the Q&A. And then on the Q&A, anything goes. So I hope that'll be welcome. So. I'm the commander of the Indo-Pacific Command. That's about 55% of the world's surface. From the India-Pakistan border, subtending to the south, from the west coast of the United States, and from pole to pole. There's about 60% of the world's population, 60% of world GDP, and 7 of the world's 10 largest militaries, including the People's Republic of China, North Korea. Russia is active in the area of responsibility, and there are violent extremist groups here. I don't want to say first the earth cooled, kind of start you out at the beginning, but all are aware of the exigency of the PRC threat. But I would like you to visualize the operational environment over the summer, over the course of one day. And over the course of the one day, the PRC had 152 combatants at sea, and that included 25 submarines and 3/4 of their amphibious fleet. At one point, they put 200 amphibious assault craft in the water, breaching obstacles, and moved on to military operations in urban terrain, for a total operation encompassing 42 brigades, while executing a opposition in the western Philippine Sea. That's not a exercise, that's a rehearsal, and that'll give you a sense of the scope of what we're up against right now. And that is a single day in the Pacific. I've had about 5 years of a constant stare on this problem, and that was the biggest day that I'd ever seen. One day over the summer, over this last year. And then in the meantime, we're also seeing among all of these players, between Russia, between the PRC, between the North Korea, a transactional symbiosis among these threats, among resource-poor countries that are making partnerships with technology-rich countries and with the converse. So you'll know that North Korea has put thousands of artillery pieces, hundreds of KN-24 ballistic missiles into Ukraine. They're in active use. You'll know also hundreds of UASs from Iran. It's Casa 4s. I won't go into all of them, into Russia. And 12,600 North Korean troops in Russia, as I utter these words, with the, in some cases, actually coming back are SU-27s, MiG-29s, with the expectation of some updates to the vestigial Russian submarine capability, and with the hope of improving their warhead reentry capability and their ballistic missile technology. During that time, North Korea tested their biggest ballistic missile they ever have, which reached an apogee of 7,600 kilometers over the summer. And so we've got combinations of these threats, unlike we've had, that we've seen really in generations. Those of you that are studying international relations, who read the book The End of History and The Last Man, purely theoretical. So we're living right absolutely in the midst of history right now too with these threats. And we know also that we're living in a new epoch of the information age. And, although we've been talking about artificial intelligence, and for those of us with a little snow on the mountain will remember 1969, 2001, A Space Odyssey, when Dave Bowman prevailed over HAL 2000. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. I love this school. I love you guys. Yeah. The adoption of attention is all you need. Transformer AI and 2 to 7 nano semiconductors, 3D semiconductors, and where we are with AI technology, we're up and over a hump to a point that where we are with AI, that the information age is really just getting underway. And those of you that think that the information age is going to replace the industrial age, I want to leave you with an idea. And that is, in 1900, in upstate New York, it took 10 minutes of human labor to produce a single kilogram of wheat. By 1900, in rural Pennsylvania, it took 1 minute of human labor to produce a kilogram of wheat. And in the year 2000, it takes 1 second of human labor to produce a kilogram of wheat. That's the effect of the industrial age on the agricultural age. The industrial age did not replace the agricultural revolution, it accelerated it. And the information revolution will accelerate the industrial revolution. And the information age will accelerate the industrial elements, speed up, make more efficient the industrial elements of warfare. And he who acts better, he who acts smarter, those who are better able to combine knowledge tools with precision effects, those who are able to see, understand, decide, and act better, faster, is who's going to prevail on the battlefield. The principles of warfare, of mass, objective, offensive, surprise, economy of force, maneuver, unity of command, and security, all of those will still apply. But all of those will, but mass, when precisely applied, mass then confers to range, because you need less explosive to put mass in just the right place. And when information effects are used, you know precisely where to put the mass. So we're living in this epoch where even more than ever, things are going to happen faster, and we are in a race to master the information age. And there's a lot of doomers that are afraid. They want to put the brakes on AI. I brought up 2001: A Space Odyssey at first. Who remembers who wrote the original book? Does anybody know who wrote the original book? Go ahead.
Arthur C. Clarke.
God damn right. Who's got a coin? John, coin that young man. God, I love it. Hoa. U.S. Army wins that one. All right. We have to go fast. We have to take risk. So all of the effort that we have to go in fast, also we have to go put into attention to ensure the human beings continue to prevail on those tools. But remember, like Arthur C. Clarke does, Dave Bowman did prevail over Hal. So that's the epoch of where we're living here. And I think that brings us here to the Naval Postgraduate School, I'll kind of take us back to where we are. And you know, there's the elite schools in the country, and this is one of them. But the elite schools in the country, you know, your Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, they have fellowships and they have scholarships for us, and they embrace us. But it's not always been so. You know, in my life when I was a child, it was not so. And so America needs an elite, highly technical institution that is executing research and development at the zenith of science that is going to focus on our unique problems. It's not outside the realm that we'd be kicked off campus again. We must have elite institutions that are focused on defense problems. Why is the Naval Postgraduate School started in the first place? These are the questions. It's here at the Naval Postgraduate School where the science of operation research is founded in ASW. It may interest you to know. And so this is absolutely vital. And for me, I can see clearly the importance of the Naval Postgraduate School as a function of the student body. And the student body has got a unique understanding of warfare that a student who has an academic appreciation won't have. B, the geography. Look out the window, and there's the Pacific. We're living in the Indo-Pacific century. C, this geography, Northern California, is the center of innovation in the information domain in the entire world, and it always will be. And these connections to this geography here at this institution are indelible and inseparable. And so for all these reasons, this makes this institution, its history as a pioneering institution, its student body as having a unique ab initio understanding of warfare, its geography here in such close proximity to centers of innovation, and in the Pacific, 2 time zones from me, in my headquarters, where we most need you. This is why I foster such a close relationship between United States Indo-Pacific Command, between United States Pacific Fleet, where I was originally, and this institution. This is why Admiral Ryo Sakai felt it was a matter of mission to come here from Japan in the world's most important alliance, the U.S.-Japan alliance. And so this is the importance of this institution. So a little bit on some of the more important topics for study in this 21st century. So I talked about how the 21st century war will be won by those who see, understand, and act faster, because range is no longer a sanctuary. Everybody has propulsion, everybody has warheads, everybody has precision seekers. We've really gotten everything that we can get out of Newtonian physics. You know, we burn every atom of hydrocarbon in a propulsion section. And we've done all the shaping of a charge in a warhead, and the seekers themselves are getting, are pretty precise. I mean, certainly logarithmically, there's some more advantage that we can get. The next generation of overmatch is going to be in electronic warfare. We could talk about low observability. That's an example. That's a combination of conductivity of materials, of angles, and of ducting. Well, there's no more elements on the periodic table. There's no more angles on the unit circle. And I think you get the idea. Counter C5ISR, that is counter command, control, computers, communication, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, targeting. From the heavens, GEO, MEO, LEO, from the Kármán line to the surface, to the seabed, through cyber, through the electromagnetic spectrum, to the screen level, to the information level of what is between our would-be adversaries' ears, is the first battle that will be fought in the 21st century. And if it's fought at its best, it's fought in a way that we deter in the first place, because deterrence is our first duty. I'll tell you something too. I'll give you an example too. I'll give you first a book recommendation. I love this book. It's by Robert Kaplan. It's called The Tragic Mind. It's not a technical book, but it's a book about the burden that leaders have. For fun, it's not so much fun, but go into a large language model and ask it, what is the effect on U.S. GDP of conflict in the Western Pacific? What is that effect on unemployment? And what's that effect on deaths of despair? And I think what you'll find is that those deaths of despair for our country will exceed the deaths in World War II. And by the way, it's likely that the economy in the United States of America would recover faster than almost any economy in the world. So in a conflict in the Pacific, it's not a matter of who wins or who loses. It's a matter of who loses less. And that's why deterrence is our first duty. And that's why finding early leverage with counter C5ISR and at the information level is so absolutely important. So information operations, counter C5ISR is a very important topic of study. I talked about, in my opinion, electronic warfare is the next level of overmatch. We're almost getting as much as we can from stealth out of low observables to VLO. And so the next move is going to be active cancellation, like on a set of sound canceling headphones is going to be the next level of overmatch. So electronic warfare is going to be an emphasis. Space operations is going to be a level of emphasis because the first battle is going to be in space and in cyber, and it must be in a way that's treaty compliant. Finding ways to combine AI tools and human decision making in ways that deliver decision advantage, but by the same token comply with the laws of armed conflict and maintain human accountability over the taking of lives is another important course of study. And all of this in all domains. And so air, land, sea, cyber, space, information. And when we say cross-domain, all domain operations, it means crossing from domain to domain in order to effect operations that are unobserved, that are indefensible, and that come with high survivability from one actor, one platform to the other, and when joined in sync with the others, execute devastating effect on your adversary at minimum cost to you. So a little bit about A, the times that we're living in, B, the epoch that we're living in, this institution and the importance it has in the United States of America and the world for our partner students, the cost of war, that deterrence is our highest duty, and some of the topics, among others, that are important points of study. So I'm proud to be your teammate. I saw some great capstone thesis projects today, and it just made me beam with pride about the level of thinking that's going on here. I want to be the sponsor of capstones, of theses, of dissertations at US INDOPACOM and our components. And when you're done, it happens that INDOPACOM commands about 70% of the joint operating forces of the United States of America. I want you on the tactical edge at US INDOPACOM deterring our would-be adversaries. And the best way that we deter our would-be adversaries is with the dynamic demonstration of combat power, by strengthening our alliances and partnerships, by spending every day improving our fighting position through improving our posture, our force posture, our theater posture, and by encompassing all of that with effective information operations in such a way that our would-be adversaries have the pure cognition that the cost of aggression far exceeds the benefits of aggression. I'm proud of you. Let's have a chat. Ask me some questions. Let's hit it. My personal philosophy on this is never send a human being to do something that can be done by a machine. Never abdicate to a machine the taking of life without some human oversight, ever. And so as we look, and this is not a new opinion. Yeah, everybody thinks that unmanned aerial vehicles or one-way attack drones is this brand new thing. You can have a seat if you want to. Everybody thinks that this is a whole brand new thing. What if I told you that we have a one-way attack aerial vehicle that will fly over 1,000 miles? It is one of the stealthiest things that's been ever built. It can pre-programmed fly based on the contours of the Earth. It can navigate via GPS. We can reprogram it in flight. We can check its health in flight. And it can deliver either a 1,000 pound, for those foreign partners, that's about 420 kilograms, anywhere on Earth within that range. Say, wow, that's a great one-way attack drone. I haven't heard of that. That's the Tomahawk land attack missile, and we have been operating that since 1984. We've been operating that longer than we've been operating me. You know, that's a new idea. You know, there's nothing new on that idea, okay? But a drone, what was a drone before it was a drone? Before we had, what was a drone? It was a worthless bee. The value in drones is not their unmannedness. The value in drones is their lack of value. It's the fact that all of the value in them is off board. The compute is off board. The sensors that are on it are cheap. It's the fact that it can be deployed at no regret. Here, take it. If I'm going to employ a TLAM, the thing is $1.2 million. And America has X thousand TLAM. Japan will soon have 400 TLAM. Come on now. So, no regret is a huge factor in this. That's what makes drones really sing for me. A mine is a drone, but there's some regret. What's the regret?
Discrimination.
Got to go get it. You know, you got to go get the thing someday too. And so that's what makes drones, you know, so compelling. And if it's going to be cheap, the chances are that it's going to be, there's not going to be a lot of energy on board. And if there's not a lot of energy on board, there may not be a lot of range there. It's because range is finite. There is 37 megajoules per kilogram in diesel fuel. There is 17 megajoules per kilogram in a lithium-ion battery. And so as you think about a drone, is that the range is commensurate with the size of the vehicle. And so drones are really good for constricted spaces, like the Taiwan Strait, or like an area around the Senkakus, if the PRC were to flood it with People's Armed Forces Maritime Militia, and I wanted to make them miserable. Or like inside their claimed 9-dash line claims in the Philippine EEZ, 800 miles from Hainan, if you wanted to make them miserable. That has enormous value. When you're talking about an unmanned ghost fleet for larger ships, too, the fewer humans, the better. But the more reliability that's required for the vessel, the more unmanned it is, the more reliability you have to have for its HM&E systems. And the more reliability you have in its HM&E systems, what happens to the cost? It goes up. And when it goes up, is it a drone? No, it ain't. So these are the choices. You know, these are the choices. I don't want to send a human being to do something that an unmanned aerial vehicle can do. The weak link in drone warfare is the network that it's acting on. Every night they learn this in Ukraine. Every night they're putting drones out. Every night they're having EW battles. Every night they're switching up the network every single night. And they're not fighting this thing with AI tools. They're fighting this thing with individual operators. They're fighting it with RI, not AI, every single night. And so I favor AI in a way that, or I favor unmanned like you wouldn't believe. But if it's a choice between a $10 billion ship and 10 $1 billion ships with a small crew on them that I can survivably operate in an environment where I have set the conditions for them to survivably operate, I'll take the 10, because fires is the king of battle. And so remember that unmanned is not in and of itself the thing that I'm looking for out of drones. I want to reduce casualties. But the problem with kind of how we visualize these fights is that we presume omniscience in the enemy. Suppose I assumed that job one is to blind the enemy, and then I commit the force. Then is unmanned a problem? Then is the mannedness of the force, as big a problem? Then it's not. The problem is that everybody assumes, well, everything inside this ring is dead. Oh, it is? Well, let's unman the entire force. Okay, roger that. The cost of an unmanned ship with the kind of fires it's going to bring to bear at these kinds of range is going to be $1 trillion. Can we afford that? No. Why? Well, because it is just as vulnerable as the manned ships because of assumption one. And so you're kind of getting to where we're going to. I'm the hellscape guy. Did you know that? Huh? No. I'm the hellscape guy. I'm the guy that the PRC hates me. They refuse to let me talk to their Southern Theater commander because I told them that I wanted to turn the Taiwan Strait into a hellscape, and I have an operation called Hellscape where I pump the Taiwan Strait with unmanned surface vessels. So I'm committed to this. I'm committed to unmanned, but only in a particular way. I don't expect you to know that, but you know it now. All the rest of you do too. Does that answer your question? Yes, sir. A lot of philosophy in that. All right. Yes, sir, please. I think it's a simple and very elegant means of talking about how we fight and how we operate. It is really, it actually takes the 7 joint functions and it distills them to 4 functional battles. Do you know how the 4 functional battles in the joint warfighting concept are intelligence, information, C2, and fires? Well, if you take maneuver, fires, and protection, and you combine them in fires, then you have the 7 joint functions in the four functional battles within the JWC. And if you take the principles in the JWC of first, deter the first battle, post operations, and win the battle after next, which is the kind of principles of the joint warfighting concept. Look, you dazzle, deceive, destroy your enemy's ability to see and sense the battle space. You maneuver within the battle space that you've created so that you're survivable. You deliver effective fires or effects against your enemy's center of gravity. Then as your enemy recovers its ability to see and sense the battlefield, then you have another series of dazzling, deceiving, destroying your enemy's ability to see and sense the battle. And then winning the battle after next is, hey, be looking ahead. Know what the next one and the next one and the next one is looking for, and set the conditions for that. So, so I think it's an elegant way of explaining it. But as a JMO professor, you're probably looking at it and saying, looks a lot like it looks a lot like a lot of the Eternals within the doctrine. It's just put a little bit more elegantly. As you look at the 4 functional battles against the 7 joint functions, as you look at kind of the 3 phases against the joint phasing model, it looks a lot like it. So I embrace it. I think it's a good lexicon for us all to think about. I think it makes us a bit more dynamic. I don't think it's the special I don't think it's the special theory of relativity that turns Newtonian physics on its head and posits wormholes in the time-space continuum and allows time travel to happen. But I do think it's an important thing for us to embrace. And what do you think?
I agree with everything you said, and
thank you
for plugging the critical. Thank you for plugging the critical factors and center of gravity. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Why must we? Why don't we? You mean how do we partner with it? How do we partner with industry?
Yes, sir.
We must. We're not in a competition with industry. Anybody know who I talked with this morning at 10:00? I talked with Dario Amade. Anybody know who he is? He's the Anthropic Claude designer. He's definitely somebody. Yeah. Look him up on your AI thing, and he'll say, he invented me. Yeah. We are partnering with them, and we have to partner with them more. In some cases, I think in some of our primes, they're lagging the problem. And I think our defense acquisition system is lagging and is sclerotic. And in some cases, I think we've got some these kind of bypass organs like DIU or Rapid Capabilities Office or Special Capabilities Office or Radar. And these are the patient goes into the hospital and your aorta is clogged, so we grab a little spot out of your femur and give you a new aorta on the other side in order to bypass the sick organ, when really we need to fix the organ. And I think there's a strong need to go fix the organ. And I think embracing industry and doing that, I think a lot of that is like what we do with Palantir, what we do with Anduril, really what we do with AWS, what we do with Google, what we're doing within the information space, what we do with SpaceX. I mean, we have a lot of things going. There is still a place for legacy defense, because mass has a quality all its own. But finding the best of the best on either side, I think, is absolutely a mandate for the 21st century. And when you say, why have they outpaced us? It's because the environment allowed for it, because we built a security environment where it did. And because America is a great goddamn country where entrepreneurship prevails and where the country can grow by 100 million people, but the economy can quadruple. The country, since I joined the service, grew by 25%, but the economy quadrupled during that time. And so good that private industry has done that too. Not for nothing, but your surface of Flight 3 is a shit ton better than a Knox class that people served on back in the day. A Spy 6 is a shit ton better than a Spy 1 was in those days. And so I'm not one to like saying, oh, woe is me, we stink. Yeah, we quit. Let's get after it. And we're getting after it in some ways. Let's run 2 problems. As we're figuring out the why, let's find out the why and the best ways, run to those problems, and get better. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, sir. I think that we tend to think about the PRC vis-a-vis us. I'll give you a couple of statistics about the PRC that's different besides us and between Japan, and it'll be an eye-opener for you. There's, somewhere on the order of 1.39 billion people in the PRC. 900 million live on $10 a day and have never had a day of high school. And if they don't work, they don't eat in the PRC. And so that's the main focus of Xi Jinping. We think, because we're the center of our own universe, that they're mostly focused on us. And there are demographic challenges, there's economic challenges within the PRC. The PRC's economy right now is focused on flooding the market and driving out of business everybody in the world in photovoltaics, in EVs, and legacy chips. That is 100 to 200 nanometers, and really cornering the market on those things in the short term. And then in the long term, the PRC is working hard on chip design, they're working really hard on AI, and they're working really hard on quantum. And they think that that's a really important focus for the 21st century, and they're willing to take some hits to capture the commanding heights of those markets for the 21st century. And so that'll kind of give you a little idea about where they are. It doesn't have quite the creative chaos that America has. They don't have an immigration policy where the best and the brightest are attracted. Leave everything else behind about all the Sturm and Drang about immigration in America behind, and just focus on that element of it. A lot of people think, well, when times are bad, they will lash out in order to take people's mind over the faltering economy, too. For 900 million people in the PRC, they don't experience the economy like we experience the economy. Some of the poorest people in America are wealthy beyond belief compared to these 900 million people in the PRC. So that 21% unemployment that you see really just applies to a coastal band of elites that are in the middle class who make around $20,000 to $25,000 per annum. They work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, mostly in windowless technical factory jobs is how people live. There are 2 academics, Taylor Fravell at MIT and Sir Geoffrey Blaney in Australia. He's in like University of Melbourne or something. They'll posit that nobody goes to war unless things are super, super solid at home. Really, the literature really doesn't support that when things are tough at home, they're going to lash out. The reason that the PRC would lash out is mostly related to the Taiwan question itself. And the PRC has built, probably artificially, so much of its own legitimacy in the Taiwan question as vestigial to 1949, and then they built so much passion around the topic that if there were to be a declaration of independence, if a third party intervenes, or if they see independence irrevocably slipping away, by the way, those are the three codicils of the 2005 anti-secession law, they're going as a war of necessity. Those are the conditions. The three factors that affect it is A, Taiwan, B, do they think they're ready, and C, the capability and the will of the United States and the Allies to intervene on their behalf. That's the calculus that they'll put into it. A lot of people say, oh, they've got demographics and they've got this, and they want to whistle past a graveyard about that the PRC, won't go. They want to find reasons why the PRC won't go. On the Taiwan question, we are threading a needle. That needle goes to the Taiwan policy. You can look this up, but it's the 3 communiques, the Taiwan Relations Act, and the 6 assurances. And we're threading that needle. And that is the question on which they'll go more than anything else. They won't go as a distraction from anything else. You can argue over Taiwan's belonging to the PRC. I hear people tweet, it's always been a part of China. That's, only since the Qing dynasty, 1693 to 1895 is it a part of China. Before that, it's an Austronesian island. From 1895 to 1945, it's a Japanese colony, and by the way, it flourishes as a Japanese colony. And then from 1949 on, it is the Republic of China, and so this is the this is the nature of the fight. Xi Jinping's main focus, this rejuvenation goal, is number 1, economic vitalization in the PRC. Hence the first thing I said, 900 million people, and then the elites that barely make a middle-class lifestyle in the United States. Number 2, military modernization. They do have 2049 goals to be a world superpower, not to take over the world, but to dictate events. When President Trump visited the PRC in 2018, one of the ministers said to H.R. McMaster, in the future, you will provide the labor and the raw materials to us, is what he said. This is a 2049 goal, not a near-term goal, but they do have that long-term goal. You'll be an admiral and I'll be dead if that happens. But I think that's a very big, and then the last goal is the unification of Taiwan, if necessary, by force. But that goal, as I said, is mostly, they have built the expectation in the country about it. Now the legitimization of the CCP is wrapped up in it, and now it's a trap that they can't get out of. A lot of answer to that.
Thank you, Admiral.
Thanks. Please. Yeah, I might replace the word intuition with innovation and creativity. In fact, I would prefer it. And I think that's what makes or should make us unique. We should treasure it, we should protect it, we should guard against those that would quash it. And have you ever heard the term frozen middle? Anybody ever heard the term frozen middle? Raise your hand if you heard that term. I loathe the term. You know, the term frozen middle postulates that the old people are innovative and are ready to take risks, that the young people are innovative and they're ready to take risks, but the middle people are not innovative and they're not ready to take risks. Sometimes it pits the old people and the young people against the middle people. Sometimes, too, they'll say, it's just me and the JGs, and we're going to have a meeting about it, and you commanders and lieutenant commanders go off on your own and go grumble about, too. I dislike that. In order to innovate and to create, somebody has to give you permission to do that. I have to sign a piece of paper to tell you to do that, too. You're a surface warfare officer, too, and I'm not one of them. You know, I've got this set of wings on the top, too. You know, our flight manual is NATOPS, Naval Air Training Operating Procedure Standardization, too. It's a revered book. But the first book, the first page says, you know, warnings is that could result in injury, caution, could result in damage, or, you know, it's like warnings, caution, danger. You know, and danger means it's going to result in death or loss of the aircraft, too. And that says, you know, these are the procedures, but as ever, good head work applies. And then also in each one, there's a conference X-ray. And conference X-ray is that if you have an in-flight emergency, you call the ready room, you get in ready contact, because if you come up with something and nobody knows what's going on, you call Boeing, you call Lockheed, and one of the engineers on the thing will help you talk you through an emergency. But it's an example about good head work applies. When the Chief of Naval Operations signs NATOPS, they give naval aviators permission to use creativity and to use head work. When there's a frozen middle, it's because the senior people did not give permission to the middle to innovate. I have an expression in my headquarters, which one of my folks will tell you, but 4-star headquarters absorb heat. That means is that I don't generate emotion, I absorb it. If somebody yells at me from above, I don't yell at you below. I say, I calmly take your shit, and then I generate calm, collected orders to you in ways that ensure performance. 4-star headquarters generate light, which means give information that's going to enlighten. And 4-star headquarters eat risk. Now here is a truism about people. Juniors will accept way more physical risk than a commander is comfortable with, and will accept way less legal risk than a commander is comfortable with. Therefore, I have to assume your risk. I have to give you a letter that tells you you can do something. And so I think that's how you unlock when you're finding that we're hidebound and we're tied to innovation, you know, and creativity. Well, I did say electronic warfare is the next generation of overmatch, and that will tell you. And so, you know, as we're in this compute war, where we receive signal, we decrypt, you know, and so, you know, signals must be encrypted. We must have frequency agility. And where are you from originally?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay, it gets cold there.
Yes, it does.
Do you ever have a big, heavy winter coat?
Yes, sir.
And then you go to hang it up on like a little wire hanger?
Yes.
That heavy coat is our precision weapons system. And that little wire hanger is our networks.
I agree, sir.
And so, and it's the same thing too with everybody that says, oh, you know, it's okay because we're going to unman everything. And everything will be unmanned and everything is going to be okay because we're going to be unmanned. And we're going to fill the Taiwan Strait with unmanned stuff. Any questions? Yes, I'd have one. What network are we going to operate on? What's its encryption? What's its frequency agility? How much bandwidth? Where's the compute that's going to cover it all? That's my question on it too. I think I've answered your question.
Thank you, sir.
Blessings, Brian. Yeah, Ann and I, or President Rondeau, or as I call her, Ann, we were chatting about this before too. When I was PAC Fleet, we together set up Nimitz Research Group. You know, I'm a grad. I love the institution. We wanted something that was focused on the Pacific, and I got a new job, and so let's get Nimitz Research Group connected with PACOM, and let's get PG School focused on joint problems. Let's get some capstones going, okay? I see, you know, first, yes and yes. And I see value in Muse. I'm going to fight the force based on the enemy, the environment, and ourselves. And if I need to deconstruct the force based on the fight, I'm going to deconstruct it. And if I need the Mu to fight as a Mu, I'm going to fight the thing as a Mu. And as the Joint Force Commander, when somebody says, we're not going to invest in amphibs because they're vulnerable, then I say, how dare you take that capability from me? It's not your job to tell me that amphibs are not going into the AO. It's my job to secure the battle space, and then I'll send the amphibs in. Because if the amphibs are vulnerable, everything on the surface of the Earth is vulnerable. The airfields, the destroyers, the littoral combat ships, the Marines themselves on the surface of the Earth. Every force element is vulnerable. What does a ship do? A ship transfers people and stuff from land to land at high efficiency, at mass. That's what a ship does. And so the Mu, you know what a Mu is. You're a U.S. Marine, and the Mu has tremendous value to me. And if the fight manifests itself, you know what a Mu does too. It gives me 15 days in a particular spot, and I expand the battle space and expand the fight, where the Mu is a ready crisis response capability in a particular spot. So it can be an opening capability, it can be a crisis response capability, it can be part of an overall joint team. And so it is plug and play in an infinite number of joint fights. And so when somebody talks about an amphib or a Mu, like it's just some unitary piece, I'm sorry, I'm joint. I don't think about that, you know? In the same way, as a family man, I have 6 children. I just don't think about one of them. I love them all equally. Yeah. So, I'm committed to the amphibs, and I'm committed to ships because it's the most efficient way to move things. And I think the main problem here with amphibs is that with our calling things as amphibs is, I think amphibs must be optionally strike, and strike ships should be optionally amphibious. And you know, the idea that we have cordoned them off as ships that just do one thing in and of itself is limiting in our own minds about what we can do about the force. Because when the unforgiving hour comes, I'm going to look out at the force, I'm going to say, what can I do with you? And by the way, I would like an AI tool that could look at the force and figure out to me how we can optimize that. And it might tell me, hey, Pappy, keep that mu together, create the battle space for it, and send it in here to do this. And it might also say, disaggregate that mu in this way or that way. But what's going to tell me how to do that is going to be the enemy, the environment, and ourself, and the disposition of the joint force and our allies and partners. But the mu is a joint force element in and of itself, a joint force within a joint force that has got tremendous value to me. The default for me is to operate the mu as a mu, but I reserve the right to break it up because I exercise combatant command with the force, which means I will do whatever I have to with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. I had tremendous, first, always respect your enemy. Always think of your enemy at their very best. And so, as soon as you dismiss your enemy is when you start getting your butt kicked. And in previous duty, I saw the Russians in action in Syria, and they had game. They had EW game, and they used Syria as a laboratory, and I was surprised at their ineptitude in Ukraine. And Ukraine has been some of the most conducive ground for assault in history, and I was surprised at their ineptitude there. The PRC was unmoored by Russia's failures in Ukraine, and it did affect their view on Taiwan. And Taiwan is many, many times harder a problem than Ukraine is. For Ukraine, it's, flat land, almost no frontiers to cross, less than Dnieper River, in history, it's just very conducive to ground assault. Whereas for Taiwan, the Taiwan Strait is anywhere from 150 to 250 feet deep. The weather is not conducive to any amphibious assault for 6 months out of the year, and for the 3 months of the remaining 6 months, it's highly susceptible to typhoon season, unpredictably. So just for 3 months out of the year, can you expect really there to be any kind of a good month to execute an amphibious assault? And when you do, there's about a 15-foot tide, 3-mile mud flat. Taiwan has maybe 3 good beaches for amphibious assault. It looks nice and flat on a map, but the canalizing terrain from the beaches, there are very few ports. There's Tanshui Port, there's Taipei Airfield, Songsheng Airfield, Keelung Port, and then to get to Taipei, there's just a very few tunnels and a very few mountain passes, really super steep mountains between there. And then when you get to the cities, thick, dense cities, and then you have to stabilize about 25 million people. Very difficult problem, very unpredictable. And they have learned that lesson, but not to be dismissed. And so we're learning some things in it, electronic warfare changing every night, but there are things, but we can't take all of the lessons from it. As we're fighting on that line, we're fighting with 32 countries worth of lines of communication and air superiority. Russia's fighting with 12 time zones of air superiority, lines of communication, and a rebuilt war machine. So there are some lessons to be learned. There are some lessons of distinction where there are key distinctive elements to warfare in the Pacific. None of it will cause us to whistle past the graveyard on the issue. I think we're in a little better position to learn because of NATO, the relationships, the advise and assist relationships, whereas the PRC has to keep it at arm's length a little bit more than we do. The issues in the second island chain are really ones of, from a maneuver standpoint, is going to be ones of executing the Agile Combat Employment mission set against incoming fires, and to be able to cycle that. We're going to have to, Guam Defense System is going to be able to protect Guam, but is mostly a point defense system. So to integrate not just Guam Defense System, but mobile defenses in the form of Aegis destroyers, going through the ops analysis of Tinian, Saipan, Northwest Airfield, Guam, Yap, Ponape, Palau, Angar. You know the drill? Yes, sir. And then, how do we balance offense, defense, sustainment, and do so at maximum efficiency? Well done. Thank you. It was fantastic. I loved it. You know, the deaf men came, called on INDOPACOM. I think when a European partner comes into the theater, it has a 3 or 4x impact. I did give a bit of advice because previously, I won't say who, I won't say it was the Germans, but some of our European partners would want to kind of shoot the gap. And they'd say to the PRC, we are going to be, we're going to operate in the South China Sea, because they didn't want to be escalatory. The South China Sea being inside the excessive 9-dash line claim of the People's Republic of China. And when they informed them ahead of time, then the PRC would say, permission granted. And so on this occasion, the German Navy executed a Taiwan Straits transit without any prior notice. The Taiwan Strait is an international waterway in every single way, and they exercised freedom of navigation in every way. They integrated within Task Force 70. They executed port visits in the Pacific, as did the Dutch, as did the Italians with Cavour. France brought its newest frigate into the Pacific and integrated into Task Force 70. And now this year, Charles de Gaulle will bring the Carrier Strike Group into the theater, and Prince of Wales will make a deployment into the theater. In many cases, we'll do so in partnership with Kaijo Jeitai, with Koku Jeitai, and with all of our partners in the theater. And I'll be a little bit ecclesiastical. At Our Lady of Fatima School, the sister servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, our nuns, in between applying beatings to me, used to say, a hymn is worth 1,000 prayers. And I apply that to operations, which is a bilateral is worth 4 unilaterals. A trilateral is worth 16 unilaterals. And a quadrilateral, well, you can continue on the function. Y equals x squared. So maybe even y equals x factorial. So, these partnered operations, they mean a ton. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, sir.
Let's call it a day. Take us out, Brian.
Thank you, Admiral Paparo. On behalf of President Rondeau and Naval Postgraduate School, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's guest lecture. Please join me in a round of applause.